As Secretary of State, Bellows' office is in charge of Maine's elections. So what happens when the official in charge of election integrity ends up on one of the ballots they oversee? The concern is a conflict of interest, and Republicans in Maine are calling on the Secretary of State to step aside while she runs for governor. Let's verify if she's required to do so. Is the current Secretary of State required to step aside or resign while running for a different elected office? Let's verify. Our sources are the Maine Secretary of State's office, the Maine Attorney General's office, and Maine law professor Dmitry Bam. All of our sources say no. There's no rule that prevents the Secretary of State or any constitutional officer from maintaining their role while trying to get elected to another position. Former Maine Secretary of State Ken Curtis ran for and was elected governor in 1966. Maine law professor Dmitry Bam says there's nothing explicit in the Maine Constitution about what an acting Secretary of State must do if they run for a different position.
Yeah, so there's nothing that prohibits a Secretary of State or another officer from running for a different office in the Maine constitutions. So I do understand the concern of the Secretary of State who's overseeing elections, running in an election, but that is the way that Maine has struck that balance, and that is the way that most states have struck the balance.
Bam says certain states like Hawaii and Florida have provisions that do not allow an elected official to run for a different office while holding their current one. He says Maine has no such rule. According to the Secretary of State's office, nonpartisan civil service staff in the elections division do most of the work running elections, including designing ballots. That work happens in a building separate from the Secretary's office. So we can verify, no, the current Secretary of State is not required to step aside if running in an election. It is worth noting that in Georgia, Republican Governor Brian Kemp won that state's highest office while he was the acting Secretary of State there in 2019. Bellows' campaign spokesperson said Bellows will continue serving in her role while she campaigns.